Hello! Welcome back. You're here to learn more about SwiftUI. If you watched our previous series of videos, that's where you learned a bit about Swift. And if you watched the series of videos before that, that's where you learned about getting started with SwiftUI. So in this series of videos, we are going to get started building an actual app that is interactive. So we're going to build something called a counter, which doesn't sound very exciting, and I guarantee you it is not very exciting. But not to worry, we can make it mildly interesting at the very least. We're going to be talking about buttons. We're going to be making these things called state variables, which sound very interesting and important, but they are. And we're going to be using conditionals, which you learned from the previous unit. So here's an example of what you could be making with this app. We're making a counter app which increases every time you tap on a button. As you can see over here, we are tapping on the screen. As we are tapping, a number is increasing and there is a message being shown on the screen. So you're going to make something like that. You can change the numbers to represent your own thing. You can put some other message on the button and you can change the messages that are shown. But this is the general idea. All right. So let's get started. Right here, you see my iPad. I'm going to go down to New App, tap on it, and I'm going to, as always, tap and hold and rename it. So once again, I'm using a trackpad. If you're using an iPad without the trackpad or a mouse, you can just go ahead and use touch. But I do recommend that you get a keyboard to code on. Otherwise, it's just going to be kind of annoying to see a keyboard take up about half the screen while you're coding. All right, so over here, I'm going to rename this to counter, and I'm going to tap on done. Done. Great. Let's tap on this random icon that it gave us, and this is our usual app preview. It's the exact same demo app that you get when you start any project, just that the icon is a bit different, and so is the color. So I'm going to go customize this app real quick. So I'm going to rename my app to be counter, spelling very carefully. So tap over here, select the code and type in counter and pressing done. And for this, I'm going to be making a little app to help a certain cookie monster keep track of his cookie intake, right? So I'm going to go look for an appropriate icon. Is there an appropriate icon? I guess this is as good as any. Looks like cookies to me. And maybe it's blue because, that's the color of that little creature right there. Okay, so you can go ahead and grab your own icons and do whatever you want with this. All right, so what does our app actually look like? Close the sidebar and bring back the app preview over here. Our app is going to have a piece of text and a button. So let me show you what that could look like. So here's a little quick note, and this is our app. And inside here, I can have something that says X cookies eaten. And below it, I'm going to have a button. Okay. And later on, if I really want, I can put in some encouraging messages here, right? Or maybe discouraging messages because you don't want to eat too many cookies, right? Think of the calories. And what are these? These are actually user interface elements that you are familiar with, right? So over here, this thing right here is a VStack. This thing right here is a text. This thing right here is a button that's actually new to you. And this thing right here is a text. Okay, so here's what our wireframe looks like. So it helps to have a piece of paper to do this on. If you have an Apple Pencil, you can do what I did and swipe in from the bottom right-hand corner to use Quick Note. And let's get started. Right, so I'm going to close this thing. So first thing we're going to do is going to delete most of the code, but be careful not to delete everything. Okay, you probably don't need to delete the VStack since it's right there for you. And we don't need an image. So let's delete the image over here. Okay, and get rid of it. And now it just says text, hello world. Okay, that's simple enough. I'm going to go change this text to reflect the number of cookies that have been eaten. 0 cookies eaten. And I think that's a good start. Next, we're going to create a button. Now, the code for a button looks a little bit complex on first glance, but it's actually pretty straightforward. You're just going to deal with a bunch of curly braces. Let's take a look. So after your text, please press enter and type in the word button. and type in curly braces and press enter so that you actually have some space between the curly braces. And then after that, tap after this closing curly brace and type in label, curly brace, enter. So this is how you type things out manually. But what if you really love autocomplete, right? I really love autocomplete. It saves me seconds of my life every single time I code. So here's what you do. Let's get rid of this button over here. And let's see how you type it out with autocomplete. So you type button, B-U-T-T. Sorry, I'm very immature. Button. You can press enter. And you type in an open bracket, right? Type in an open bracket. And you get to choose what sort of button that you want to create. This is a bit like when we were creating functions of the same name with different function signatures, but not quite, right? Very similar, but not quite the same. So when you are doing something like this, I would like you, for most of this course, to choose the one that says button action label. Okay, so you can just press enter and it will give you some complex looking brackets and arrows and things like that. But here's the trick. When you see button action something label something, and with the first argument being highlighted, press your enter key, boing, and now it looks exactly like what we had just now. All right. There are some error messages, but if you wait patiently enough and twiddle your thumbs, I think they should go away at some point. So let's twiddle our thumbs. Twiddle, twiddle, twiddle. Twiddle, twiddle. All right. This is probably fine. Let's not worry about this. Okay. So yeah, this is what a button looks like. A button has two parts, right? This first set of curly braces defines what happens when a button is tapped. You might have seen the argument label just now, which was action, right? Action, right? Action is what happens, right? When you punch someone in the face. Don't punch people in the face, right? But action, okay? And label is you labeling what you've done. So I have punched someone in the face and I am going to jail, all right? So action and label, there are two different aspects to a button, okay? So what's a label? Well, a label is actually just what you show on the screen, all right? And what the action is what happens when the button is tapped. So a very simple label could comprise a text element that says nom nom, because that's what you want to see on the button when it's shown on the screen, okay? Now, what do you want your button to do? Well, technically, you want your button to increase the number of cookies eaten. But for now, we'll be a bit less ambitious and we'll just print out a bit of code. Remember the print function? So tap on this code right here and type print. And bye-bye cookie. Okay. At this point, the errors should go away and we should have a working piece of code. As you can see on the right in my app preview, you can see 0 cookies eaten followed by a button. It's not a very impressive looking button. It's literally just blue color text, or depending on the accent color you chose, it could be that color, but it works. How do you know it works? I'm going to actually tap on this button right here. Every time I tap on it, you see in the bottom left-hand corner, a little print statement pops up from the bottom left. This is pretty cool. It's a little bit different from what you saw in Swift Playgrounds using actual Swift, but if you tap on it again, right, here you go, a little pop-up. And if you want to see what's actually being printed, you can open the console. Here you go. And every time you tap on it, you don't get a pop-up anymore, but it adds a new line. And that's exactly what it used to be like when you were working purely with Swift. All right. So quick summary. We have sketched out our app. We know that we need a VStack, we need a text and a button. A button comprises two parts, right? It comprises an action over here, and it comprises a label. You can have more than just the text inside the label, right? You can have 2 lines of text. You can have 3 lines of text. Amazing, right? But what we're going to do afterwards is we're going to make our buttons look a little bit nicer, but that's something for the next video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.